we're going to need to have a very honest look at the problems in this pandemic, almost like a 9/11 style commission.
2 years after COVID changed the world, there are calls to change the way the pandemic affected the very process of science.
What is among the most important things you've learned?
There has to be freedom for science to actually work.
This week, we examine a frightening casualty of COVID.
While millions of Americans shifted from working in offices to working remotely, something else changed.
So the most common thing that companies are using right now are different ways just to measure activity.
We look at the technology and the ethics of who's watching you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
And the 2020 election exploded with new ways to deliver campaign messages.
We're so lucky to have all of you on our team.
And new strategies in the age-old attempt to influence the outcome.
Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, he and his billionaire wife gave around $400 million to 2 nonprofits.
Money and influence in elections in a whole new space.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Today we begin with a fundamental shift that's happening in American science. Over the centuries, scientific debate was usually considered invaluable in order for scientific advancements to take place. But an information war launched by public health officials during the COVID pandemic has made many ask whether that long-standing dynamic is still possible.
I think we're in a very, very bad state. We're going to need to have a very honest look at the problems in this pandemic, almost like a 9/11 style commission.
Dr. Jay Bhattacharya says he never imagined he'd find himself at the center of a firestorm during the COVID pandemic. A professor at the Stanford School of Medicine, he's a medical doctor with a PhD in economics. The story of how he went from respected mainstream academic to the focus of an organized smear by top public health officials begins about 6 months after the national COVID lockdown began. Bhattacharya and 2 colleagues published a policy statement named for the town where they signed it, Great Barrington, Massachusetts.
It's an informed freedom as opposed to this perception that everyone faces the equal risk, which is not true.
What is the Great Barrington Declaration, the idea behind it, and what happened with that?
The Great Barrington Declaration said, let's devote our resources to protecting the older populations and other people with with chronic conditions that predispose to the bad outcomes if they get COVID. And for the rest of the population, let's live as close to normal lives as possible. That's it. That's the strategy. The fact is that there's a 1,000-fold difference in the risk of severe disease. Oldest people, very high risk of death. 80% of deaths are people over 65 around the world. Whereas young people, especially children, have very low risk for severe disease, right? Very low death rates.
You had a lot of scientists sign on to that. Do you know how many?
Tens of thousands of scientists and doctors signed on. We have almost 950,000 regular people. This despite big tech suppression of it. The idea is not even original. It's the same pandemic plan we followed for decades in respiratory pandemic after respiratory pandemic, as recently as 2009 with the H1N1 flu pandemic. It's essentially the Great Barrington Declaration, except it wasn't called that then.
The 3 scientists didn't know it yet, but their public efforts would make them targets of a frantic behind-the-scenes campaign by public health officials at the highest level.
So we wrote this document on October 4, 2020, released it. It went viral beyond my expectations. 4 days later, I find out from a FOIA email, Francis Collins, the head of the NIH, wrote an email accusing me, Sunetra Gupta of Oxford University, one of the world's best epidemiologists, and Martin Kulldorff, one of the world's best epidemiologists and biostatisticians from Harvard, Stanford, Harvard, Oxford, of being fringe epidemiologists, and then asking for a devastating published takedown of our premises.
The emails were recently revealed through a Freedom of Information, or FOIA, request. On October 8, 2020, Dr. Francis Collins, head of the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, emailed White House COVID advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci, who heads an NIH sub-agency called the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Collins calls Bhattacharya and the other Great Barrington Declaration co-authors three fringe epidemiologists whose proposal seems to be getting a lot of attention, even a signature from Nobel Prize winner Mike Leavitt at Stanford. There needs to be a quick and devastating published takedown of its premises. I don't see anything like that online yet. Is it underway? Collins asks Fauci. The public health leaders were turning to online media to personally discredit the scientists. Fauci later emailed Collins copies of articles published by Wired and The Nation magazine attacking the Great Barrington Declaration and its scientists.
It was essentially an organized propaganda campaign started by the NIH, at least as best I can tell with the FOIA documents I've seen so far, to marginalize me, to call me fringe, even though I've been a Stanford professor for 20 years in the medical school.
So were you ever called fringe, to your knowledge, before all of this?
No, I don't. I mean, not that I'm aware of. I would have thought that if I were in Tony Fauci's position and you have prominent outside scientists saying, look, the strategy we're following is deadly and leading to too many deaths and not particularly is not saving lives, is bad, I would have engaged with those scientists to try to understand what are they talking about. Instead, I've never heard from him, and I felt the brunt of the propaganda campaign where he had friendly reporters come and try to attack me. His friendly to him come and attack me.
We asked Fauci and Collins for interviews about the Great Barrington Declaration and their emails, but they declined. A spokesman told us Collins, who is no longer head of NIH, has been very vocal about his opposition of the Great Barrington Declaration, stating that it is scientifically indefensible and irresponsible. Here's what Fauci said in October 2020 about the idea in the Great Barrington Declaration of protecting the most vulnerable and keeping schools open and life relatively normal for everyone else.
If you talk to anybody who has any experience in epidemiology and infectious diseases, they will tell you that that is risky and you'll wind up with many more infections of vulnerable people, which will lead to hospitalizations and deaths. So I think that we just got to look that square in the eye and say it's nonsense.
In fact, a growing body of scientific data and evidence supports the approach outlined in the Great Barrington Declaration. Lockdowns failed at short-circuiting COVID, and the toll in terms of economic losses, physical and mental health, and education have been well documented. Recently, Fauci insisted lockdowns saved many lives, but he was surprisingly in sync with Bhattacharya and the Great Barrington Declaration about the harms of the restrictions.
Particularly in children who are not allowed to go to school, in the psychological and mental health aspects it has on children, in the economic stress that it puts on society in general, on individual families. Obviously, those are negative consequences that are unintended.
Yet the Great Barrington Declaration scientists who strongly argued the same thing in 2020 found themselves attacked and subjected to smears and career threats by the scientific establishment they once embraced. Some have had federal grant money, the lifeblood for academic researchers, jeopardized or withdrawn by Collins's and Fauci's agencies, who hold the purse strings when it comes to billions in federal tax dollars.
I mean, I've been funded at the NIH most of my life, or most of my career, last 20 years. It helps, convince your university, for instance, that you should get tenure. A lot of scientists looking at this say, okay, well, these are fringe ideas. I better stay silent or else my career is threatened. And that's what's happened. They use their power to silence scientists. And that is a conflict of interest.
Bhattacharya says he's survived because he's tenured at Stanford, but that his reputation is irreparably damaged in some corners. Now he's among a group of scientists and watchdogs pushing for major reforms.
So the people have been misserved by public health. And so the people are going to have to demand that the reforms that happen are driven by people who are not conflicted, who didn't make these mistakes. And I think so. I know that there's an impetus to try to do an evaluation where the people doing the evaluation are those same ones who made the mistake. If that happens, it'll just cement the distrust that the public has in public health. Certainly it'll cement my distrust.
What is among the most important things you've learned, maybe in the bigger picture as a scientist, about how things work? when there's a message that's to be put out?
That, in fact, the kinds of scientific discussions that I took for granted for most of my career cannot survive a situation where you have government bodies controversializing perfectly reasonable positions, suppressing debate and suppressing discussion, employing propaganda techniques like big tech or the press to personally attack the lives of scientists who disagree. Now, you cannot have science where the government essentially can control what it wants to have happen. There has to be freedom for science to actually work. And I didn't fully understand that before the pandemic, but now I see it.
Among the reforms Bhattacharya says are needed is putting a firewall between public health officials who make policy decisions and the funding that scientists receive, so the money cannot be used to suppress scientific discussion or to blackmail researchers into silence. When we come back, how far should your company go to keep tabs on your work at home? As millions of Americans have shifted from working in offices to working from home, more companies have begun using high-tech software to track what those employees are actually doing all day. Scott Thuman has a look at the question of what's fair.
Remember The Office? That uplifting feel of a stand-up desk, the mega printer and endless supply of paper, those goosebumps whenever the boss was watching.
Breaking news tonight, Americans on virtual lockdown to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
It's been 2 years since most American businesses, in the wake of a global pandemic, sent their workers home. New York skyscrapers empty, Los Angeles roads deserted. Employees plunging into a new norm. Workdays starting on the couch, continuing in the kitchen, and often ending in the bedroom. And bosses keeping tabs almost every step of the way.
One of the biggest concerns that executives had when the pandemic first started is that we're going to move all of these employees to working from home, and all that's going to happen is that they're going to take naps during the day.
Brian Kropp conducts research on trends in human resources for the consulting company Gartner. What are you seeing right now that companies are relying on the most to make sure that their employees are working when they're at home?
So the most common thing that companies are using right now are different ways just to measure activity. So when did you log in? When did you log off? But we're seeing other organizations look at things like who are you emailing? What sort of websites are you going to? And then at the extreme, using your camera on your laptop to track your facial expressions, what you're doing, trying to get feedback from what you're looking at and what your face actually is expressing, if you're frustrated, if you're tired, if you're asleep.
Before the pandemic, Kropp estimates that less than 30% of the largest U.S. companies, often referred to as the Fortune 1000, used some sort of tracking technology. Now, Kropp says that number has jumped to 60%. Twice as many companies now are doing whatever they can to make sure their employees, when they're at home, are actually working.
So that's not necessarily every employee, but for some segment of their workforce, they're doing that, yeah.
And increasingly, employees are trying to outwit that technology.
And you happen to have a mouse connected to your computer.
This mouse jiggler went viral on TikTok. Developed by a tech company in Austin, Texas, it sells for less than $30 to counter employee monitoring by making it appear you're busy working. Just as global sales of employee monitoring technology could reach almost $7 billion by 2028. Even though you may be using your employer's equipment and be on their time, people are going to say this is illegal. Do they have a legal protection in there?
Employees, not really. The employer has an access and has a right to all of that information. So all of your emails, all of your instant messages, everything you're sending on Teams or Slack, it's all being warehoused and captured. If your cell phone is provided by your employer, they can actually track where you are.
Almost no employees in America today know the full extent of the monitoring they're subjected to.
Albert Fox Khan is a lawyer, an activist on privacy and technology issues, and founder of the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, also known as STOP. Khan says laws have failed to keep up with the threat to privacy surveillance tools pose.
If you're just checking how many times someone is clicking a key at their keyboard, that doesn't tell you if they're doing a good job. Reducing every aspect of our work life to a set of numbers gives you terrible data and gives you terrible employee satisfaction. It's really incumbent on the states and even local governments to protect workers from these sorts of tools. This is why we call the states laboratories of democracy, because they are oftentimes the first to, try out new legislation.
At least 7 states, including New York, have laws governing employee monitoring, ranging from simply informing employees they're subject to surveillance to banning non-consensual home surveillance and biometrics.
Biometric data can be resold. That's the information about any part of our body. Our face, our iris, our retina, even the way we walk. There are facial recognition vendors that are collecting not millions but billions of photos of all of us in order to create tracking tools that they can sell to police, sell to corporate customers, and sell to basically anyone willing to pay.
There is a risky downside to the company acting as Big Brother.
All of that data is being stored in giant repositories on corporate servers and in the cloud, and all of it is susceptible to hacking, extortion, and all of the other harms that come when people can access our information. So when we think about these pools of data, it's not just a gigantic landmine for the employees whose lives are being documented. It's potentially a huge source of liability for the companies that collect it and could lose control of it.
But in spite of the scary notion of your boss being over your shoulder 24/7, the reality of tracking might be for your own good.
Most employers are getting this information to try to help their employees, and their heart, I honestly believe, is in the right place. They're trying to understand who's coming up with the best ideas to appropriately reward them for that. They're trying to figure out, are our employees working too many hours and they're getting exhausted and burnt out? And then if that's the case, are there things that we can do to adjust the number of hours that they're working or nudge them to take a break? So the vast majority of companies are using this information to try to help their employees and create a better experience for them rather than to really spy on them.
Though there can be consequences for companies accused of abusing access. In Illinois, a former Amazon employee sued after claims his biometrics were captured and kept without his consent in what may be one of the first test cases of employee versus Big Brother. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman.
Coming up on Full Measure, Zuckbucks and the 2020 election. In the 2020 election, like never before, experts say, social media titans stepped in and influenced the outcome. One of the controversies surrounds so-called Zuckbucks, huge grants of money to certain local governments from Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg and his wife. Today, we're finding out how it worked from the head of the conservative investigative think tank, Capital Research Center, Scott Walter.
I guess the simplest way to put it is Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, he and his billionaire wife gave around $400 million to 2 nonprofits. Legally, they're public charities, so they're not supposed to be involved in elections in a partisan way in any way. And those 2 charities gave money to almost every state in the union directly into government election offices. And they did it with strings attached, including things like you must have many extra drop boxes and this and that. The money went very disproportionately to the Democrat vote-rich jurisdictions, mainly the big cities. The second thing is, within the funded part of those states, the Democrats did far better than they did in the rest of the states.
Other than the point that you made where you're saying the money was funneled through organizations that are not supposed to be involved in politics, is there anything inherently illegal about a group giving money to elections causes in states and cities?
At the time, it was perfectly legal for a charity to give money to a government office, and they tried to pretend like it was, oh, we're just masks and plexiglass and whatnot. That was the tiny fraction of the money. But there were no laws against that because nobody dreamt of doing this. So that part, the giving the money there was legal.
Then, beyond the money that was given, or the Zuck bucks, there was a huge social media effect on the election. I think pretty much everybody agrees with the censorship of Donald Trump or shaping of information, including Facebook doing this. What is your assessment of this impact on the 2020 election?
The social media titans felt deeply responsible for the 2016 victory of Donald Trump, though they didn't intend it. And they vowed it would never happen again. And left-wing pressure groups also put heavy pressure on them. Vanita Gupta, for instance, who was at the time head of a civil rights group, and now is in the Department of Justice, one of the top Department of Justice folks for Biden, she bragged to Time magazine about how she and other left-wing advocacy groups harassed Zuckerberg and Dorsey at Twitter and even more of that world long before the election, demanding that they censor, that they block, that they change algorithms, all this stuff so that the election would turn out the way they wanted.
What do you see in 2024 along those lines?
I don't think anybody thinks that there is a simple solution to this problem of tech censorship in elections. And I hope we will continue to grapple with it after the 22 elections. Some of the houses of Congress may change, and there may get to be more public debate, and Americans can try to figure out how to deal with this very genuine problem.
At least 16 states so far have taken steps to pass laws restricting Zuckbuck-type funding. Mark Zuckerberg has said he and his wife gave $300 million 2 months before the 2020 election because of concern over voting challenges due to COVID. A spokesman says, quote, nearly 2,500 election jurisdictions from 49 states received funds to help recruit poll workers, rent polling places, support drive-through voting, and more. After a break, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Coming up next week on Full Measure, one of the hottest controversies in our country today, America's crime wave, and whether it can be blamed on soft-on-crime policies.
I got an email from the victim's father who said, hey, how is it possible that this person is out? Like, why is this person out? And that's mind-boggling to me.
Some critics blame elected reform prosecutors.
George Soros' interests have funded a lot of the elections of people like you, including you.
And we get some surprising insight we didn't expect from our visit to one of America's crime-ridden neighborhoods next week on Full Measure.
Until then, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable.